Hi, Sharon here from Down Home Wicks. We're on the third part of making this candle. We're going to mix our fragrance and our wax together and actually pour it in there. Um, now with this wax, I'm going to show you. I'm probably cutting my head off here. We're going to heat up our wax. Now, this you have to make sure that you take the temperature of your wax. It's critical. Making candles is about temperature and timing. This is about, let's see, I'm doing a cooler method. Let me explain for a second here. Let me get back in the shot. I'm going to use blueberry. On here, there's a flash point. It says 147. That means that at 147 degrees, this fragrance oil is combustible and vaporizes. So if I add this fragrance to my wax above 147 degrees, it's just going to burn off. And then the candle is going to be pretty much useless because all of my fragrance is just going to vaporize. So you want to pay attention to your flash points. That gives you your first indication of when to add your fragrance oil. Mine right now is at about 165 degrees. So we're going to let this cool down a little bit before I add this. Otherwise, there's no point. I might as well just make an unscented candle. So we're just going to let this sit for a minute and let it cool off. While it's cooling, I'm going to take and add, I don't want to get wax all over my towel. I'm going to set this aside, let it cool off. It doesn't usually take long to cool down. The manufacturer recommends, this is 416, GB 416. It's a tart wax. You can also use that as a container wax. It kind of works a little bit better than the 464. There's not as many issues. It seems to be a little bit smoother. So if you're having a lot of issues with the 464, you can use a 416. I use the 416 because I like to make wax melts, and they're universal, and then that way I only have to buy one wax for tarts and containers. But I'm going to put the wick in. So we're going to do that while we're waiting on our wax to cool off. Now, because I make so many of these, I don't know, maybe I'm cheap, but I use popsicle sticks and I drill a hole in the middle of them. It works just fine. And because of the length of the stick, it works on the majority of my containers that I use. I don't have to worry about it. The containers that are a little taller, this gets a little tricky, but it still does work. This is going to go in the middle through the hole, and I'm going to show you how to attach it. I don't use wick stickers. When I first got my kit years ago, I think that there was a sticker in it. And I never really use stickers. I always use hot glue. And what I do is I use, these are just cuticle pushers. You can use dowels, skewers, an ink pen, anything like that, whatever that you have. And I just put it in the center and then push it down. That's all I do. I've learned to use these really quick, and then I just eyeball it. So all I'm going to do is put a little dab on here. I use hot glue gun. I got real fast at it. So it's just a personal preference. I don't like the wick stickers because they have a tendency to come loose. That's the only reason I don't like them. I guess it would be just as fast. It doesn't take much glue. You do only have so much time, and then the glue hardens up, and then you can't really do anything with it. I can smell this blueberry. It smells really good. Now, I don't put my wick holder on until after I pour. Otherwise, you're trying to pour around a stick. But when I do put this on, I let that set up. When I do put it on, I kind of pull the wick a little taut so that the wick stands up straight. These wicks, they're not coated in wax. They're actually, it's like a pickle. It's a solution, a chemical solution that they put on the wicks that helps them. It's like a flame retardant. It's actually kind of odd, but it controls the burn of the wick. but they soften up from the heat. This is still pretty hot. So we're going to let this cool a little bit. I don't want to add the fragrance until this is below 100, at least 145. It's a little hot. So we're just going to hang tight. It's about my wax is at around 145. Well, again, we waited because my flash point's 147. I have 13 ounces by weight of my wax and 1.3 ounces by weight of my blueberry fragrance oil. I'm going to add it in. And in the event that you're off for whatever reason, don't stick your head over it. I'm going to stir. Now you're going to see too, it says to stir for a couple of minutes. You can tell when you add the fragrance oil, it like clouds up a little bit, but you're going to stir for a couple of minutes. So what we've done to make a candle, we figured out how much wax mixture fits into the jar. We figured out how much wax we needed. We figured out how much fragrance we need, what size wick we need. We melted down our wax. We've added our fragrance. We now know what temperature to add our fragrance. So we're stirring it for a couple of minutes. We've attached our wick. Then we're going to pour our mixture into the container. Most of the time you pour your mixture at about 135. So as soon as this is mixed up, it'll probably be safe to pour it in there. And then we're going to let it cool. We're going to let it cure. Now curing is when the fragrance and the wax completely bond. Here I'm talking, you're probably looking at other things other than my face. So your candles need to cure. Now for testing, I cure about 3 days. Depending on the fragrance, it takes, I don't know, a few days to a couple of weeks. It depends. I think everyone has their own opinion, every candle maker. A lot of times what happens is when I make candles, by the time I actually make the candles, get them labeled and everything, it's probably a week later. By the time I get them up to my booth, it's almost a 2-week rotation. So by the time they're actually up at my booth and on a shelf, they're almost 2 weeks old anyway, by the time somebody's even picked them up and smelled them, touched them, or whatever. So I don't worry too much about the curing time. You can burn a candle before the 2 weeks. I don't think they need to sit for a full 2 weeks. I always check my candles. Before they go out, I always check it again just in case something happened. Maybe when I loaded them in the car or something like that, maybe I tossed them around and I wasn't as gentle as I should have been because they're glass or whatever. And maybe there's some cracks or something that I didn't notice originally. I always double check just to make sure. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour this. I don't like to pour anything sitting down. If you accidentally spill something, it's going to go in your lap. I don't like to make candles sitting down. So you keep safety in mind if you feel more comfortable. Usually I have an apron on. Like I said, I'm a messy candle maker. I'll pour this in front. So basically you're just pouring. This should go, if our math is right, should go right up to the threads, and it's perfect. So now we've poured this in here. We need to keep our wick in place. So we've got our popsicle stick. Just going to put this in the hole. This is a little bit close, and I'm going to, hope you can see what I'm doing. The wicks, like I said, they're treated. They're a little stiff. So I'm going to bend it over just a little bit there so that it makes it a little tight. Not too tight because you don't want to pull the wick loose. I'm going to leave it just like that and let it sit overnight. And then I'll come back. It's not too hot. It's fine. It'll be a perfect candle. And then we're done. We'll have a candle. So on to the next one. We're going to make all kinds of candles. So come back if you like this. And if you want to make a candle in a special container, skull candle, Christmas candles, Halloween candles, Easter candles, any other kind of candle, now you know how to figure out how much wax goes in there and how to make a candle out of that container. So stay tuned. We're going to make some more different types of candles, specialty candles, and continue on. So thanks for watching. Come back. Bye-bye.